Hey, third graders. Welcome to one of my favorite parts of reading on a Monday, genre. Our purpose is I can identify features of a folk tale. So you're to do, watch this mini lesson, and then complete your Monday genre workbook page. Make sure you restate the questions and write in complete sentences. Capitals and periods. That will help you to continue to grow as a reader, okay? All right, let's go on. Our purpose as readers today. I can identify features of a folk tale. So what is a folk tale? Well, a folk tale is a tale that's passed by word of mouth among people. So it can be told from generation to generation. Most of the time, a folk tale teaches a lesson. So it usually has a message or a lesson. This week, we together are going to read Inchworm's Tale. And this story has been told, it might have been told in a different version that you've heard than today, but it has the same lesson as other folk tales that you might have heard before. So we're going to be looking for the lesson to identify our genre as a folk tale. Another book that you will be reading on your own this week is The Ball Game Between the Birds and the Animals. After we read our text today, we're going to answer these 4 questions. These are the same exact 4 questions that you will be answering on your genre workbook page on your Reading Wonders backpack. Again, we will restate and answer each question, and we will use complete sentences. So these are the questions that we're thinking about answering to help us identify the features of this folktale. How do you know this text is a folktale? Okay, remember, folktales are short stories passed from generation to generation, and they teach a lesson, which can be a message or a theme. Number 2, are the characters in the text realistic? Why or why not? Number 3, how does Inchworm solve the problem? In your short text on your Reading Wonders backpack, you will have a different question for number 3, but the same idea. Number 4, what do you think the lesson of this text is? So we're going to think, what lesson or theme can we learn from this folktale? Inchworm's Tale. Long ago, Anant and his sister, Anika, went swimming. They swam all afternoon and became very tired. They were exhausted and climbed onto a large flat rock to rest. Soon, they fell asleep. A strange and mysterious thing happened as they slept. The rock beneath them grew and expanded until it reached the clouds. Anant awoke and looked around. "Sister, wake up!" he cried in disbelief. "Am I dreaming, or are we among the clouds?" Anika rubbed her eyes. "You're not dreaming, brother. This rock has grown while we slept." The children looked around and saw fabulous blue sky and wonderful white clouds. The children were so high, Anika felt dizzy. Anant searched for a way to climb down, but he could not find a path. Anant and Anika started to cry. They felt fear and dismay. Below, the villagers became worried. Where were the children? They searched the forests, meadows, river, and lakes. Then Isha, the village chief, looked around and noticed Hawk sitting on a tree branch. "Hawk, will you help us find Anant and Anika?" he asked. "You have sharp, watchful eyes and strong wings. They are your best features. Please, use them to help us find the children." Hawk agreed to help and flew up into the sky. He tilted his head and squinted his eyes at the bright sunlight. When he was near the clouds, he spied the children on the rock. "Don't be afraid," said Hawk. "We will rescue you." Hawk was unable to carry the children down the rock, so he gathered lots of food for them to eat. Then he brought large leaves to keep them warm. Hawk wanted to make sure they were safe and unharmed. Hawk flew down to the village and spoke to Isha. Isha called all the animals together and told them they needed help to get the children down. He asked each animal to use its most special feature to climb the tall rock. Several tried and failed. Mouse's teeth were strong and unique, but they couldn't help her climb up the rock. Bear's huge claws were good for climbing up trees. However, they could not help him scale rocks. Mountain Lion's claws were sharp and powerful, but the rock was too slippery, and he slid back down. Finally, a tiny voice filled with enthusiasm spoke up and offered to help. "May I try, please? It's me, Two-Tack, the inchworm." Inchworm showed them all how skillful she was at climbing. Hawk volunteered to carry Inchworm to the top of the rock. Then she could lead Anat and Anika down the giant mountain. Isha agreed to the plan. So Hawk carefully picked up Inchworm in his beak. Together they flew to the top of the rock where the children were waiting. Along the way, Inchworm planned for the trip down. I'm going to pause here. Our purpose is to identify features of a folktale, and one of the most important features is that this text teaches a lesson. Well, so far there's this big problem. The children are stuck on this tall rock and they can't get down. And every animal that tried using their unique features failed. So no one can get these children down. There's this large problem. Along comes Inchworm, who is a tiny little creature and yet says that she can help. So now she's making a plan as Hawk carries her up to this rock. So I'm already thinking, what could I learn from Inchworm? What's a lesson that I could learn? Well, she's teaching me to be brave, courageous, no matter how big you are, because she's a tiny little inchworm, and all of the other large animals failed. Let's read on. It took almost a week for the three to climb down to the village. Inch by inch, Inchworm led the children carefully down the rocky slope. Every day, Hawk brought food to the children. Every day he reappeared in the village with news for the villagers. Finally, Inchworm, Anat, and Anika reached the bottom of the rock. Everyone cheered and called Inchworm a hero. It was a glorious, splendid day. From this day on, said Isha, I renamed the big rock Two-Tack On-Ula. Two-Tack On-Ula, after the brave Inchworm. There is a character trait, brave. So wouldn't that be a great lesson to learn how to be brave? That would be a feature of a folktale. Now that we have read our text with the purpose to identify features of a folktale, we can now answer our questions. Now remember, our first purpose was to identify features of a folktale. Our second purpose is to restate and answer these questions, writing a complete sentence. So, as a third grader, just for number 1, we're going to use our third grade strategy of crossing off the question words. And then you can use that strategy if it helps you. If you don't need it anymore, and you can just restate the questions on your own, go ahead and do that. If it helps you to cross the question words out, use that strategy. So here's our question. How do you know this text is a folktale? So we cross off how and do, and we use the rest of the question to help us restate. I could write, I know this is a folktale, or I could just write, this text is a folktale because. In blue, this text is a folktale because the characters teach us a lesson. Remember, the most important feature of a folktale is it teaches a lesson, or we can call the lesson a message or theme. All three of those words mean the same thing. Number 2, are the characters in the text realistic, Why or why not? So I need to restate this question. The characters in the text are realistic, and then I need to say why. Because the characters in the text are, and I chose to say not realistic, because, and here's my proof, animals don't talk in real life. Hawk was talking. Number 3, how does inchworm solve the problem? Again, in order to answer this question, I have to restate the question. What do I have to do? You got it. Restate that question. Well, inchworm solves the problem by first offering to help and also being brave. Inchworm solves the problem by, notice how we restated the question. Inchworm solves the problem by, because it's asking how, offering to help and guiding the children down the rocky slope inch by inch. Here's our last question. What do you think the lesson of this text is? Okay, remember, we need to restate the question. The lesson of this text, we restated the question. The lesson of this text is that size doesn't matter. Bravery can help solve problems. Okay, third graders, remember our 2 purposes. 1, identify features of a folktale. It teaches that lesson or theme or message. And 2nd, restate and answer these questions. You will now go on your Reading Wonders backpack and complete your short text and restate and answer each question. Make sure you have capitals and periods. Good luck, third graders. I can't wait to see how much you're growing as a reader.